Let me tell you something about the exact moment your past catches you. It doesn't happen in slow motion. There's no swelling music. You don't get a warning. 1 second you're standing in the doorway of a boxing gym in East Los Angeles, hand wrapped around your 7-year-old's fingers, sunglasses on, perfectly composed. And then you see her, and every carefully maintained wall you've spent years building inside yourself just falls. Quietly. Completely. Like they were made of paper the whole time. I'd walked into that gym as Evelyn Hartwell, widow, former board chair, woman who had everything under control. I walked out as someone else entirely, someone I recognized from a long time ago. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's what happens when you're telling someone the most important story of your life at 2 a.m. You start at the wrong end. My name is Evelyn. My daughter is Lucy. 7 years old, all ponytail and opinions, currently obsessed with the idea of learning to box because, and I quote, strong girls hit things. I couldn't argue with the logic. What I could do was find her the best youth training program in the city, which is how I ended up researching gyms on a Tuesday evening instead of sleeping, which is how I found Moreno's. I did not connect the name. That was my first mistake, or my greatest gift, depending on how you look at it. The gym smelled exactly the way gyms smell: leather, chalk, old sweat, and something underneath it all that's almost like focus. Fans rattled overhead. Gloves hit bags with a rhythm that felt less like noise and more like a heartbeat. Lucy's grip tightened on my fingers. She was trying very hard to look unbothered and failing completely, because she kept smiling. I was scanning the room. Old habit, I count exits and read atmospheres before I do anything else. When I saw her step through a side door with a towel over one shoulder and her hair pulled back and her whole presence somehow narrowing the room to a single point. Riley Moreno. The world didn't spin. It stopped. That's what people get wrong about moments like this. There's no vertigo. There's just stillness. A terrible, complete stillness in which every sound falls away and you are left with one simple, devastating certainty. You never actually stopped loving this person. You just got very good at pretending. She hadn't seen me yet. She was laughing at something, head tipped back, easy. And the laugh was exactly the same as I remembered, which is somehow the cruelest part of all of this. Years pass. People change. But the laugh was hers from 23 years old, standing in my apartment during a thunderstorm, telling me that everything was going to be fine. Lucy tugged my hand. "Mama, that's the coach, right? She looks cool." "Yes," I said. "She does." And then Riley looked up, and her eyes found mine across the gym, and the world resumed, loudly, all at once. And I stood there in my black blazer and my composure and my sunglasses and thought, I am in significant trouble. If you're already hooked, hit subscribe. This story is just getting started. And drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. Here is what you need to know about Riley and me, and I will make it brief because it still hurts in the way that good things hurt when you lose them. We loved each other when we were young, in the hidden way that people love, when they don't yet believe they're allowed to do it openly. Riley was studying kinesiology. I was finishing my MBA. We were completely wrong for each other on paper, and completely right for each other in every way that actually mattered. I left. Not because I stopped loving her, because my family used words like practical and security and future until they started sounding like facts instead of opinions. And marrying a wealthy, respected, genuinely decent man named Charles Hartwell looked like the logical choice when you were 26 and afraid and hadn't yet learned that logic and love are not the same language. Charles died 2 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. He was a good man, and I grieved him genuinely. And I also discovered, in the silence after his funeral, that I had spent 15 years being a good wife and a good mother and a good philanthropist, and had misplaced something essential along the way. Myself, mostly. And now Riley Moreno was walking toward me across a boxing gym in East LA, and she was smiling. Not nervous, not guarded, just real. And I thought, of course. Of course it's her. "Hi, Evelyn," she said. 2 words, my name in her voice. I have attended galas, chaired boardrooms, delivered eulogies, and negotiated endowments. I have never been so undone by a greeting in my life. "Hi, Riley," I said, and was quietly amazed that I sounded normal. She knelt down to Lucy's level, immediately, naturally, the way some people are just built for children, and shook her hand with full seriousness. "I'm Riley. You must be the one who signed up for the junior class." "I'm Lucy," my daughter said gravely. "I want to learn to hit things." "Then you're in the right place," Riley said. I stood there watching my daughter charm the woman I'd spent 15 years trying not to think about, and felt what I can only describe as the universe being extremely pleased with itself. I told myself not to read into it. I am very good at not reading into things. I have made an art of it. Riley taught the class. I sat on a bench near the wall, answering emails on my phone, not watching. Definitely not watching. I watched the entire time. She was extraordinary with them. The kids, I mean. Patient in a way that isn't passive, firm in a way that isn't harsh. When a boy kept dropping his guard and getting frustrated, she didn't lecture him. She stood next to him and mirrored the correct stance until he found it himself, and then she looked at him like he'd done something significant. He stood 2 inches taller for the rest of the class. That was always the thing about Riley. She made people feel like their effort was seen. She glanced at me once, during a break. Quick, careful. I looked down at my phone. She definitely noticed. I definitely knew she noticed. We were both pretending not to play a game we both recognized. When class ended, Lucy ran to me breathless and triumphant, reporting every detail at full volume. Riley followed, and in the logistical conversation that followed, schedules, equipment, expectations, I successfully maintained the persona of a competent adult human being who was not having any feelings whatsoever. I thought I'd gotten away with it. Then Lucy ran off to the bathroom with another girl, and Riley and I were left standing alone by the front desk, and the gym noise softened around us into something that felt very much like a held breath. "I didn't know you were back in the city," Riley said. "I wasn't," I said. "Not really. We moved back 6 months ago. Lucy needed... I stopped, started again. I needed to stop pretending somewhere else and start actually living somewhere real." That was more honest than I'd intended. Riley's expression shifted. Not pity. Something quieter. Recognition, maybe. "I'm glad you're here," she said. Simple. Unvarnished. Riley had always had this way of saying true things without dressing them up. "I'm glad too," I said, and felt the decision settle somewhere in my chest before my brain had caught up with it. She handed me a card at the front desk. Her name, the gym number, a direct line. I put it in my wallet like it was ordinary. It was not ordinary. That night, after Lucy was asleep, I took the card out and held it for a long time. The city hummed outside. I thought about all the years I'd spent choosing the careful option. I texted her first. Just my name, Evelyn, like a question with no question mark. 3 dots. Gone. Back. "Coffee tomorrow?" she wrote. I smiled in my dark kitchen and typed back, "Yes." She was already there when I arrived. Of course she was. Riley had always been exactly on time, which I had always found both admirable and mildly unnerving. She stood when she saw me, which was not formality. It was instinct. She had always done that. Stood when something mattered. We started safe. The gym. Lucy's potential. The way Silver Lake had changed beyond recognition, while somehow keeping the same attitude. Riley talked about opening the gym, the permit fights, the early months sleeping on a mat in the back office. The moment she realized she'd made something real. She talked about it without bitterness, which is a particular kind of strength. I talked about the boardrooms, the galas, the way loneliness can hide inside a life that photographs beautifully. She listened without performing sympathy, which I appreciated more than I could say. And then there was a silence. Not awkward, just honest. And Riley said, "I never hated you. I just spent a long time not knowing if you were okay." The words landed clean. No accusation, no performance of forgiveness, just truth, offered plainly. "I thought I was making the least painful choice," I said. "I didn't understand yet that postponing things isn't the same as avoiding them. You just move the pain forward." She reached across the table, just her fingers against my wrist, brief, public, completely discreet, and completely undeniable. My breath caught, not from surprise, from recognition. My body remembered before my mind could manage it. We walked after coffee, no destination. Jacaranda petals crushed beneath our shoes, the air warming early. We talked and laughed, and I kept noticing how easy it was, how she remembered things I hadn't told anyone in years, the small details that survive a person. We stopped by the cars. The moment felt suspended. "We don't have to rush," Riley said. "I don't want to pretend," I answered, which surprised us both, I think. She kissed me then, unhurried, intentional, exactly like the question it was. When we pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine. The city moved around us, indifferent and enormous, and inside that small circle of quiet, I felt something I hadn't felt in 15 years, like I was standing in the right place. "We can do this right," she said. "Yes," I said. "Together." Here is where I am going to tell you about my sister Diana, because she is important to this story, and also because I love her, and she makes me want to scream in equal measure. Diana called 3 weeks after Riley and I had started seeing each other, cautiously, carefully, beautifully. And she led with, "People are saying things, Evelyn. People always say things, Diana. About the gym, about the trainer, about..." A pause. "Are you sure this is wise? I want you to understand something about Diana. She loves me. She has always loved me. She also has a very specific idea of how a Hartwell widow should behave, and it does not involve falling back in love with a boxing coach in East Los Angeles. She's not cruel. She's scared. There's a difference, and I've learned to hold both. It's honest," I told her. "That's wiser than anything I've done in years." She didn't bless it. She didn't argue further. Progress, for Diana, comes in increments. Then came the board, a politely worded email requesting a brief conversation about optics and public perception. I read it twice, recognized the shape of it. This is how institutional pressure dresses up, in careful language and furrowed brows, and concern for your well-being. And felt something clarify inside me. I declined the conversation and resigned instead. On my terms. With a letter that was precise and final. Walking to my car afterward, I felt lighter than I had in 10 years. Riley met me in the parking lot. I told her what I'd done. She didn't cheer or gasp or make it dramatic. She hugged me, long, steady, and said, "You're brave." "I'm tired of being careful," I said. "Good," she said. "Me too." Lucy figured it out before we said anything, because Lucy is 7 going on 40 and she notices everything. She came to me one afternoon while I was pretending to read a report, sat down with that particular gravity children get when they've decided something is important, and said, "Mama, is Riley your girlfriend?" I set the report down. "Would that be okay with you?" She considered this with the seriousness of a small judge. "She's nice," she said finally. And she's teaching me to keep my guard up, which you always say is important. It is, I said. Okay. She picked up her book. Can we have tacos for dinner? And that was that. Watching Riley with Lucy, the patience, the humor, the way she explained things without condescending, I kept feeling something I couldn't quite name. It took me a while to recognize it. It was safety. The specific safety of watching someone you love be good to someone you love more. There were still difficulties. At the gym, there were glances. At school pickup, there were pauses. A parent pulled her kid from the junior class, which stung more than I expected, and returned 3 weeks later without explanation. Another parent approached me after an event, voice low. I hope this doesn't affect the kids. It affects them, I said. They see adults tell the truth. She blinked, nodded, moved on. Not every confrontation ends in conversion, but ground gets gained. The first real argument happened over something embarrassingly small. I forgot to tell Riley about a donor event that overlapped with Lucy's sparring night. I had managed around it without thinking to include her in the decision, and she found out from Lucy, which is exactly as bad as it sounds. And she arrived that evening quiet in the particular way that means the hurt is real. I don't want to be an afterthought, she said, not accusatory, just honest. Riley's honesty is so consistent, it almost takes your breath away. You aren't, I said. I'm unlearning habits that took 15 years to build. I'm going to get it wrong sometimes. I need you to tell me when I do. I need you to tell me first, she said. Before Lucy, before the calendar, before everything else. She was right. I knew she was right. Old reflexes don't die politely. They have to be caught and corrected, over and over, like keeping your guard up. I'm going to mess up again, I told her. I know, she said. So am I. That's not the question. The question is whether we talk about it. Yes, I said. We talk about it. She took my hands. The fight, if you could even call it that, ended not with a resolution, but with a practice. We'd keep practicing. The gym hosted a youth exhibition match in early spring, not a competition, a showcase. Parents filled folding chairs, music played. The energy was bright and nervous and slightly chaotic, which is the energy of anything children do that matters to them. Lucy was competing. She had prepared for 3 weeks with the focus of someone who has decided this is serious. Riley had trained her with equal seriousness. No favoritism, no shortcuts, just the honest work of teaching. I sat in the front row with my hands folded in my lap, which is the body language of a person trying very hard not to vibrate with anxiety. When Lucy stepped into the ring, she looked at us. Both of us. Riley raised her chin, the coaching signal, confident and clear. I nodded. Lucy smiled and turned to face her opponent, and I thought, there she is. There's the girl I'm raising. She didn't win on points. She won on courage, staying steady, keeping her guard, getting back up once when she stumbled. The crowd applauded. Riley cheered from the corner with the restraint of someone who knows the win belongs to the kid. Lucy ran to us both when it was over. No thought, no calculation, just a 7-year-old wrapping her arms around 2 people she loved. A few phones lifted. Most of the room just smiled. Afterward, under the string lights outside the gym, Riley found my hand. Thank you, she said softly, for choosing this out loud. I looked at her. The gym behind us, the city around us. Lucy already animatedly explaining the fight to another kid, and thought about all the versions of my life that hadn't led here. Thank you, I said, for being worth choosing. My mother called on a Tuesday. She led with, I saw the article about the gym. I braced. She continued, You look different in the photo, calmer. This was not an apology. It was not a blessing. It was something smaller and more honest, observation offered without a verdict. From my mother, that is a significant movement. I am calmer, I said. A pause. I don't entirely understand it. I know, I said. You don't have to. You just have to decide how you want to show up for me. Another pause. Longer. I'll call again next week, she said. She did. And the week after that, we didn't resolve 15 years of silence in a phone call. But we started talking in it, which is how things actually change. The moment that settled, everything looked like a Sunday morning. Too much sunlight. Lucy in mismatched socks, changing her breakfast order 3 times before the first pancake hit the pan. Riley at the stove in one of my shirts, hair still damp, telling Lucy that she could have 1 topping, not 5, and Lucy negotiating with a seriousness that suggested she had a future in contract law. I stood at the counter with my coffee and felt it. The thing you don't expect, the thing that's quieter than happiness and more durable. Permanence. Not certainty. Not guarantees. Permanence in the sense of, this is real enough to keep choosing. Every day. We drove to the coast that afternoon. No plan. Lucy raced ahead on the sand, shoes abandoned immediately, laughing at nothing and everything. Riley walked beside me, shoulder to shoulder, comfortable the way people get when they've stopped performing ease and actually found it. This feels like a life, she said, almost to herself. It is, I said. The past didn't disappear. It never does. My former name still appears on buildings. Invitations still arrive addressed to a version of me that no longer fits. But now, when those things surface, they feel like old photographs, evidence of where I'd been, not instructions on where to go. As the sun lowered over the ocean, Lucy sat between us in the sand and asked, with the directness that is her singular gift, "Are we staying like this?" Riley looked at me, not for permission, just to share the moment. "Yes," I said. "We are." Lucy nodded, satisfied, and turned back to the waves. That night, after she fell asleep in the back seat, Riley took my hand in the dark of the car. "I used to think love was something you fought for," she said. "All intensity and stakes. And now?" "And now it feels like something you build," she said. "Every morning, every pancake argument, every hard conversation." I turned toward her, forehead to forehead, the city lights moving past the windows. "I spent years choosing what was expected of me," I said. "I'm choosing what's true now. I'm choosing you." She kissed me, not like a beginning, not like an ending, but like a continuation. When I fell asleep that night, there was no relief, no triumph, just calm. The specific calm that arrives when your life finally matches your heart. This wasn't the story of a woman discovering who she loved. It was the story of a woman who stopped leaving herself behind and stayed.